And we just want to highlight them and all of you all at home. But we're going to have a good discussion about fatherhood, about the importance of the Black father in the family, and the importance of the Black father in the community. We have some special guests, Mr. Tony Lindsay, Dr. Maurice Green, and Dr. Reginald Caldwell. I hope you all are doing great. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button on your way in. First, I want to start with you, Dr. Green. Just to talk to me when you hear the words Black father or father figure. What are some of the first things that kind of come to mind, and what are the some of the images that may even come to mind when you hear those words?
I guess one of the first things that I think about when people talk about Black fathers is the unfortunate framing of Black fathers as synonymous with absenteeism,
Hmm.
right? And I think, unfortunately, that narrative has been allowed to permeate the airwaves and the internet in a way that it makes it very difficult for people, some people, to wrap their minds around the fact that Black men are present in the lives of their children, both their biological children and non-biological children. One of
Right.
the books, one of the writers that I happen to be very close to is Dr. Charles Green, actually, who wrote a book called The Myth of the Missing Black Father, who shared the ways in which Black fatherhood is not counted, right? When you have
Hmm.
fathers, Black fathers that are involved with other mothers of children that existed before the relationship began, that those fathers that are there taking care of those children, if you want to call it secondary fathers, not necessarily stepfathers, because sometimes they're not wed, but I think that we have got to do a much better job of presenting Black fathers in all of their variations, and make sure that we continue to support Black fathers in ways that I think most people, given the narrative that's presented, may not be acclimated to.
Absolutely, and I think that's a big thing that's going around on social media is the deception of Black fathers, and the perception of being whatever you want to call someone because they are with
Hmm.
a woman who has children versus only having children of your own, and all of those things and stigmas that are around stepfathers and whatnot. But before we get into some of that kind of stuff, Dr. Caldwell, I want to ask you about Dr. Green just talked about like what that name or what Black fathers and the images that kind of are presented to him when he hears those words. For you, Dr. Caldwell, I'm coming to you. What was it like when you had your child? Like, just talk to me. Like when you had your kid, what was that was going through your mind when you found out it was happening, and then when the child was brought into this world, just some of those emotions and things that went through when that happened.
Well, one of the things I wanted to not do was be absent like my father was. I wanted to definitely dispel the myth that our children could not be successful, um, if they didn't have a father in the home. A lot of times, our society tells us that if a father is not in the home, that child would not be successful. But so many of our Black men aren't necessarily in the home physically, but they do want to be involved in the child's life. However, we know that there's certain laws that don't allow that to happen. We know that we have child support laws that make it very difficult a lot of times for our Black men to want to have a relationship unless it's financial. Most of our Black men will and want to be in our child's life. However, they don't have the access to the finances or the resources in order to what society quotes unquote quote unquote says that, hey, listen, um, you have to be there as a financial provider. But we want to spend time with our children because in my situation, time was more valuable than just paying child support. Uh, that's what our children need to really truly understand, and the society needs to understand that Black men really are statistically based on the data are willing and wanting to be in our children's lives, whether they have felony convictions, criminal convictions. They do want to go to the school and be involved in activities. However, there's certain laws that say that if you are a felon, you can't stand on or be on a school campus. You know, So we have to really understand and change the dynamic of the old school way of thinking and saying that the only way that as a black man you can be involved in that child's life is by being resourceful with money. But time is very, very important. Um,
Very.
it always the data always goes back to saying that if a black child has a black father in their life, male or female, uh, they will be successful in life because that black child, male, gets to see the proper representation of manhood, black malehood, and that
That's right.
daughter gets to have somebody who validates her femininity and how she needs to be treated in this world when she begins to go out and she dates and she's able to have someone as an elder, meaning a father, that she can go back to and say, "Hey, wow, Dad, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And he says, "Well, how did I treat you?" Well, that man that you decided you want to be with needs to treat you like that. So she has um, a representative or a picture of how I need to be treated in my life. And that young man or that young male child has a representative of what black masculinity looks like and how you need to pattern your life after if you are the proper representation of black male masculinity in a relational situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, we're having our black panel talking about fatherhood and their relationships with their children, their relationships with their father figures. And Tony, I'm coming to you on this. Was there just talk to me about your own personal experience, not just with your children, but growing up? Was your father or father figure who was someone that you kind of modern, I guess, your parenting style after, or was there someone that kind of you had looked up to that gave you the inspiration that made you want to be a better father or a father to your children?
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Uh, I think what's really great about this panel is we're coming with like a myriad of perspectives.
Mhm.
Uh, like, see, I myself, my parents were together. For they were married and together until my mom passed away just a few years ago. So I had the quote unquote full nuclear family type of thing situation. So my father was always in my life. And I definitely modeled my parenting style, I would say, based upon him. But I think it also had to do with my mother. I think it's this, I think as a community, I think when it comes to Black fatherhood,
Mhm.
I think it has to be intertwined. It's necessary that is intertwined with motherhood. And when I think of
Mhm.
fatherhood, honestly, I think of protection. I think of pride. Like those are the things that those are the first things that enter my mind when I think of fatherhood, because I kind of feel that we all have a role as fathers, whether we are biological fathers to children or not. And that's kind of the lesson that I learned from my father, because my dad, he was kind of like the dad for everybody in the neighborhood. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? So that's the time that I came up in. And I try to impart that type of behavior or that type of feeling upon my children, that experience. I try to give that to them. And also, like I'm the type of guy, like in my neighborhood, all the kids will know me. They call me Unc,
Mhm.
or they'll call me Pops.
Yep.
And that's the way that we're
Yep.
supposed to be engaging
Right.
as Black men with
Mhm.
everyone
Right.
in
Right.
our community.
Mhm.
So I think when we talk about Black fatherhood, I say that as Black men, we are all fathers to those in our community that come behind us.
Right.
But unfortunately, as was said earlier, we get a bad rap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I try to utilize my time to uh to showcase, to pretty much dispel the narrative that you've been seeing out there that always
Mhm.
paints Black fathers as absent,
Yep.
when statistically we're more involved in our children's lives than any other demographic.
Absolutely. Yes.
and
Yes.
that's and that's whether we are married or
Mhm.
not. So I do believe in the institution of marriage. I do believe that there are advantages to being married, when you have your kids and all that kind of stuff. Do I think it's necessary in order to raise, balanced and prepared children for life? No. but I do believe that the presence is necessary. So while we have so many elements in society against us that try to fragment the Black family, I'm actually very proud to see the heavy involvement of Black men who are readily available for the
Mhm.
younger people in their community and their own kids.
Right.
Dr. Green, do you have something? It looked
So
like
I
you had
think,
something.
so again, the diversities of experiences and opinions is really important to be, to reflect. I think that the benefit of having both the mom and the dad in the household, I think, is important to raising a balanced, well-adjusted child. Now, it is possible to be balanced and well-adjusted, right, with deficits, right? But there
Agreed.
are, but that I think so. My situation was different. I grew up for the most part in a single parent home, raised by primarily by my mother,
Mhm.
but we were involved in the church world,
Yep.
then we had pastors and we had
Yep. Hmm.
ministers
Hmm.
and other men
Yep.
that were able to speak into my life and to assist
Hmm.
me and help me to grow and to develop that balance that I'm talking about. Because one of the things that you'll hear people that when you work with young men, and young women for that matter, that didn't have a father in the home, there is a longing, there is a gap, right, and there
Yeah.
is a deficit of understanding how to interact with men in ways that they would better understand if they grew up in, and this is the caveat, in a healthy environment with a
Yep.
man and a woman, right? So I'm
Hmm.
not just talking about throwing two random men and women together and that automatically makes it better, because that could be problematic if there's conflict without resolution. So I think that you hear that narrative again, men are not necessarily necessary. I and I'm going to share
That's the worst thing that's being put out there,
worse.
man.
So just to kind of expand on that,
Hmm.
when people have said, how you grow up. Well, maybe some of the viewers might know about this. When you grow up with only your mom, sometimes you say things like, "She was my mom and my dad,"
I've heard
right?
that.
Or on Father's Day, you give your mother a
Mother, a
Father's
gift.
Day
Yeah.
card,
Right.
and so I used to do things like that. Um, and I understand now as a man, right, that as wonderful as my mother
Mother
was, and
was.
she is wonderful,
Hmm.
caring, honorable,
Hmm.
hardworking, she could never be a father,
Hmm.
right? And as you get older, you realize being a father or being a father figure in the lives of children, you understand that trying to celebrate your mother on Father's Day is a reflection
Yeah.
of that gap, that
Yeah.
hole, that deficit. So I think that,
Oh,
just to be clear, I think that it is really important to have both the mother and the father in the household
Hmm.
in a healthy relationship, to learn not only how to be, but how to be with someone else,
Right.
how to adapt to the presence of someone else,
right.
because it's not just about who I am and how I move and this is me and you just got to take me out. There's a whole lot of negotiating, right, in
Hmm.
relationships, and when children see that kind of negotiation, I think it sets them up for greater success, not just in life generally, but in how to mitigate and operate in healthy relationships.
Absolutely. Uh, and that's the way, that's the way that I'm seeing it. I was telling Jeff prior to us coming on that I feel like I've been doing sort of a summer internship to really validate and authenticate a lot of the research that I have studied over the course of the years, and seeing that in elementary school where I'm doing a summer camp. And I never wanted to do elementary school. I mean, I don't like snotty noses. I don't like crying kids. I don't, because I've done that before. And now you're doing it with a whole school full of those kids. And I was like, wow, this is different. However, understanding that my presence as a black male transforms every classroom that I would go into, because you would see how those black male children would look at you and say, wow, I've never
Talk
seen
about it.
anything like that.
Yes,
Like,
that's right.
like he's articulate, he's carrying himself a different way than what I see on television, what I see when I'm playing my video games, what society is really imposing on me to feel as though that's what I have to grow into. I've always called it the theory of um, the mask of masculinity, is what
Come
our
on.
society throws at our children a
Come
lot of
on.
times, telling them that if you aren't this way,
Come
which
on.
is always unsuccessful, then you are not validated as a black male in this society. We have to put together coalitions where we can say we have a counter to what our society is teaching our young black males. And it is, forget about the unsuccessfulness. We have to be totally on point with showing success in all areas of activity. And I go back to my brother Neely Fuller, and I'm sure Jeff knows about Neely Fuller through Boyce. And Neely Fuller tells us that all 9 activities of our lives are controlled by the dominant society. We talk about religion, sex, war, labor law, politics, economics,
Hmm.
education, and entertainment. And all of those, we see black males as at the lower tier of success. We're always
Absolutely.
doing terrible. And what I've seen in my studies, of course, in education, is that we fail at everything. We never, ever have the opportunity to be seen as gifted and talented. However, we are at the lower tier of, or represented higher in emotional behavior disorder and specific learning
Hmm.
disabilities. So, how do we correct those? So, we have to make sure that in every area of activity that we participate in, that we are glorifying the positivity of black males, masculinity, what we are really put on this earth to do for our community, because we are at a time where, man, we got to do something. Um, I was telling Jeff, I just relocated back to Miami in April, and it's totally different from the city that I live in, because you see everything in larger numbers. So we have to have representations and find these people. And I can get deeper into that on a whole different level, but we have to start finding our black men where they are. And what's more important, Dr. Green, is when you said that I was a PK. I grew up in the church. My grandfather was a preacher, had his own church. I always saw proper representation of black masculinity, black men in suits, black men in ties, black men carrying themselves in a authoritarian, positive way, talking to me about life and how I needed to represent myself, not only for the church, but when you leave that church, you are representing that last name of your grandfather or your family who's in that church. So we got to get back to that. We have to get back to that. It's totally necessary.
Dr. Green, do you have
So yeah, I think one of the things that I found through my research and through working with young men is the importance
Mhm.
of the concept of identity. So when you speak about being a PK, growing up being in church, it's one of those things that we have got to really start to delve into
Mhm.
in terms of the identity of black men and boys, right? Because a lot of times what people are trying to do is to change your behavior,
Mhm.
right? I want you to stop doing this, or I want you to start doing that. And we've got to get past dealing with the symptoms and deal with the problem, which is the sense of identity,
Mhm.
because you will do what you think you are, right? So if you're a PK, if you're a church boy, generally speaking, you try to conduct your life in a way that supports your primary identity as a church boy or a church goer or a Christian or a Muslim or whatever that might be. So I think it's really important for us to really start digging into the ideas of masculinity and identity to help black men and boys move in directions that will
Mhm.
help lift our people.
Right.
absolutely,
I think.
absolutely. Once again, we're talking to our panel about Black fatherhood and the different experiences that they have, and also their experiences with their children. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button like, share, subscribe. Tony, I want to ask you this. What advantages do you believe, you talked about having both your mother and your father in the home growing up. Just what advantages did that give you, knowing that both your parents were there all the time? And what you talk about the relationships that Dr. Green spoke about a little bit earlier that you were able to see between your parents that helped develop you as a young man growing up?
Well, I think the main way in which it helped me to have both of my parents there, it basically um taught me about relationships. It taught me
Hmm.
how to engage and behave and to nurture a productive relationship with a woman, right? With someone that you love. It showed me how a father protects his children, how he nurtures his children.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times in society, when we talk about fathers, we kind of talk about fathers in this sense like they're a pocketbook, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
Accessory.
yes, absolutely.
we
Yep,
Yeah.
we reduce them to finances,
yep.
and I particularly find that dangerous. Now, do I believe that it is a man's job to protect and to take care of the home? Absolutely. I mean, I'm a PK too, just so y'all know. So it looks like you got a bunch of preachers kids up here,
Shout out to the PKs.
right? But but when you reduce men to nothing but a wallet,
Yep.
I mean, it pretty much it redefines what masculinity is, right? It 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 exempts them from having any type of emotional connection with their children. It really changes things, and it causes a real, I think, a handicap in your offspring and those
Hmm.
that come behind you. So, like I was talking to my sister earlier today. Oh gosh, she's gonna kill me. But I was talking to her today about her well, you don't know what sister is, but about her daughter's father. And he's a great dad, he takes care of everything financially
The
and all this
provider,
and that.
the provider.
He's a provider, yeah.
Hmm.
But he's not so emotionally available.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about your daughters, especially, I think that when you're talking about the relationship a dad has with his daughter, he is the first example of what a man is supposed to be. And
To
she's
compare
going
to.
to more times than not
Hmm.
model her future husband,
Husband
boyfriend,
after her
or
dad.
or or whoever she dates after this guy. So if her understanding of love is money, what do you think is going to happen when she gets out there into the world?
Hmm.
So I think when that advantage of having my father and mother together, it showed me the cohesiveness of how you work together in order to bring up a family. But like I said before, I don't think it's not to disparage anyone with like single family homes or anything like that, because I know a lot of wonderful, well-rounded people who were raised in single parent homes. In
Hmm.
fact, my son is being raised in a single parent home. I'm a single dad. You know what I'm saying? I was a single dad of my daughter,
Me too.
of
Yeah.
my eldest daughter as well. And they turned out great. You know what I'm saying? So,
Pat on the
I,
back.
right. We just got to stop getting caught up in this narrative that it's either or. And we have to get back to a place where we understand that masculinity and femininity, especially in the black community, is something that really works together.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And we have to abandon this adversarial relationship that we have with each other that is propagated by the the dominant society. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They're the
Yeah.
ones who are infiltrating our culture and telling us, they're redefining to us what masculinity is. So when you hear these terms like toxic masculinity and all of that, I don't subscribe to any of that garbage, because masculinity is not toxic.
Hmm.
It is not. And black masculinity is not only not toxic, but it is very powerful. And why do I know that it is very powerful? Because it is under attack so heavily by this society. So, you know what I'm saying? I believe that it is incumbent upon us to teach masculinity, to be
Hmm.
present. Don't allow anyone to tell us, what a father is. Even with the whole court system and the child support, this, that, and the other, I think that's one of the biggest weapons that has been used by this country, by this system, to destroy black families, because they utilize a gauge that should not be used when it comes to, our family dynamic. They impose it upon everyone. And let's think about it. Financially, black men are the most disenfranchised people in this country when it comes, I'm talking about economically.
Economically.
So economically. So if we're talking about, if we're in the toilet economically like this, how do you think child support is going to impact our ability to be involved in our children's lives? You have so many elements that are trying to separate us from our kids. So, yeah, I kind of went all over the place. I know.
But I totally,
Man,
I
just want to
totally
shout out.
get it. Yeah, go ahead. I'm
I just
sorry.
want to shout out. I disagree. Yeah, I think I'm
I
going to
can
be.
tell you.
I think I'm going to be the
were, 'cause
disagreeing
face-
square, right?
Your
on
face
the.
is giving
All
Dun,
away.
right,
dun, 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 dun,
small disagreement. I just want to point out one thing. So in terms of the most disenfranchised, so I have to give a shout out to our Native American brothers and sisters in this country, because in terms of the being disenfranchised, and not that we're having an
Do they
oppression
have
Olympics,
free land? Do they
huh?
get reparations? Do they have
Listen,
land?
if
Do they have
you
reparations?
We go, hey,
Do
we're
they
going
you
in
spend,
different
do they get
directions, Jeff.
endowments?
Jeff, we're
no,
going in different
if
directions.
you take any time and visit those reservations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know people that have actually spent a lot of time going to these different
Mm-hmm.
reservations and living on these
Mm-hmm.
reservations.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, and I don't want to defend, I don't want to shift the conversation,
Mhm.
but we're talking about a people that have been oppressed almost out of existence.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
but let me say this, if you don't mind, if I can interject.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Uh, we've been on this planet. There's no evidence that we've not been all over this planet everywhere. When
Come on.
has there been an alliance that they've come out and wanted to create an alliance with black people? And I'm not saying that what you're interjecting is wrong. However, our situation is totally different because of the fact that they've gotten 600 years of free labor from African labor to build this country.
Right.
I live here in South Florida. They don't have to pay taxes. They've
Mm-hmm.
gotten reparations. They have land. They can do anything they want to with. What do we have? But we built this country. Everyone who comes over here to work off of our backs. They weren't enslaved into perpetuity even until today, the way that we are. So I'm not disagreeing with you. However, we
Right.
have to look at it in another context. In when you get 500 to 600 years of free labor, that's different when they say, hey, listen, we're going to correct that. We've never had a correction to say, we are going to do something legally to correct our wrongs. We have no land. We have no reparations.
That's another conversation. I don't want to push it in the wrong direction.
That's okay.
Because again, I don't want it to be like, because as a black man,
sure.
I understand our side of that table.
Sure.
Right?
I just want to address real quick, only because you addressed that comment to me, what I said.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also need to acknowledge, and I'm not trying to play the oppression Olympics here, because we don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna make me pull out the stats.
But I think if anyone were to look at who is the most targeted
Dominated.
demographic, targeted, specifically
Dominated.
yes, dominated, propagandized, economically disenfranchised, socioeconomic education, who is the most targeted? I would say black men. Who is the poster child for everything wrong in the United States of America? Is it Native Americans or is it black men?
You want me to answer that question?
It looks like you want to answer
because you're dragging it. So understand what I'm
get a quick response, Dr. Green, and then we'll get back to
right. Understand.
Okay.
Like I said,
I'm only arguing the point of black men being specifically targeted in order to separate their families,
right,
and keep them of the family structure.
So just not to go too far left, as a black man, I fully understand that side of the equation. as learning about through people that have spent a lot of time working with our indigenous brothers and sisters, their plight is so bad that they're not even targeted anymore. Like, so do you understand what I'm saying? You would be hard pressed to locate. I mean, the type, and this is something that we should all consider, the kind of oppression that can be put on the people so much that when we say they got reparations and they got money and they got land, I understand that, right? But this whole country was theirs. Like, so we're not talking about.
That's why I have to disagree with you, because you have to go back and understand the historical context.
I do want to save that conversation for another.
Please,
we don't agree on that right now.
That's fine.
Get the barbershop topic a little bit.
Yeah, that's barbershop. Let's table that.
Yeah, Dr. Caldwell, I want to come to you on this. When it comes to, we talked a little bit about as far as like images in the media, right? What are some of the images in the media that you see as far as Black families, the Black parent, and specifically the Black fathers, and where like the direction that you would like to see some of that change? And I'm going to ask some backup questions off of that. But what are some of the images that you see as far as media, music, entertainment about the Black man in the fatherhood structure?
So when you talk about entertainment, when you talk about an industry that specifically designed a structural system that could destroy the image of the Black male, it's entertainment. Whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's commercials, they have done a fantastic job of just destroying our image and making us look as though we are not even trying, as if we are to be pet dogs, if that makes sense, like pet dogs, lap dogs. They don't care anymore because they know that they can do that. They have a justice system that derails us in. We have a educational system that does the same thing. We have labor, we have the laws, we have the politics. They can do whatever they want to do to us at any time. Most recently, we have our brother, Bill Cosby, getting out of prison. That you can have everything that you want and be at the top. And we can go through all of our Michaels. We can go through 70s, 80s, 90s. I was born in the 70s, and we can pick out a specific Black male who had made it to the top, who they specifically attacked. But I always say, look at the people at the bottom. Those are the people that they can't get to the top a lot of times, so they go after the people at the bottom. So those are the people who are pulled over for, their windows are too dark. Those are people who jaywalked across the street. Those are people who they just specifically target to throw into jail for nothing. So even if we make it to the top, we are still attacked because of the fact of our dark skin, just because of our magnetism, our electricity. And that is the reason why that we still need to make sure that we're controlling our own media. Before we came on tonight, I was telling Jeff how happy I was that he's a young brother from Louisville who is saying, look, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this because I can control the media. Once we get into a place where we control our own media, that's when we become a problem in this society, because we can redirect the narrative. We can change the narrative of how we are. Stop watching NBC, MSNBC, all these national networks that put us on television as always the negative, and start creating our own content, because that's all we have. When we get people behind us who follow us and we're talking about really serious issues that impact our community, impact fatherhood, Black male masculinity, and how we are perceived in our society, that's when we become more powerful. When we start making our own videos, we start making creating our own newspapers, and we get the support of our Black women behind us, and stop allowing the dominant society, the media, to say that Black men and Black women are at war. When you're at war with each other, the objective is to win something. Okay. What is there to win in the system of racism and white supremacy? There's nothing to win. So we have to get back. Not for us, right? We have to get back into a narrative that says that we are together in this long marathon and not this sprint to the finish line. We got to get back to reconnecting us, whether we are raising our children in a home together or if we are raising them co-parenting, as in my situation. But we can make that great as well. So we have to
Absolutely,
get back to that. We have to stop allowing us ourselves to be controlled by people who hate our guts.
And they're
absolutely.
feeding us our narratives.
Our
And
narratives.
just like how you were saying with the media, it goes for news media, it goes for
Mhm.
content creation on social media, and it goes for Hollywood. And I
Yes.
think that we will see that shift, because even myself as a filmmaker, like anything that I do, it is for the specific purpose of providing a message, to my people, to all people, because we're so inundated with negative imagery of black men in particular, that it's our job to kind of change the portrayal, to show the other
Yeah.
side. So, but I think one of the big problems is we don't see enough value in ourselves, in our own people, and the stuff that we're doing. Because it's like, why aren't we out there supporting all them black films? It's black writers, black actors, black producers, directors. We know the black experience. We may, and there are a lot of people, they may not have the big Hollywood bucks, but I've seen a lot of independent films that have way better stories than
Right.
what you're seeing on
Right.
Hollywood,
Yep.
with the stories they're telling us about us. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
me personally, I'm tired of seeing some of these really crazy depictions of black men. Like with that thing you just seen recently with Tyler Perry. Listen, the guy's a great businessman. He has a very good business model, right? For being a filmmaker. But at the same time, I see a lot of the imagery he puts out as problematic, right?
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
hey, I'm not gonna. But what can I really do other than provide a product to combat that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm less prone to complain about stuff, and I just wanted to just get in there and let's do the work and let's build up for our
Right.
community.
Right.
That's what
Right.
we need to be doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, we're talking to our black men, black panel about fatherhood, but also just about the black experience. We always start on one thing, but we're going to cover a lot of
Yeah.
topics simply because we have smart individuals, smart black men on this panel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Dr. Green, I want to ask you this. Dr. Caldwell brought up Bill Cosby, and some of the imagery Bill Cosby used to put out as far as his programming was of the black family and the black family experience and a strong black father, and even some of those things in like college, where there was a different world and those things. Just from your perspective, do you believe that kind of programming, even though there's these allegations levied against Bill Cosby and some of the things he may or may not have done, do you believe that kind of programming should still be allowed to be played on television, especially when we have all these different kind of things? Or what are kind of your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean,
Hmm.
it's been said by some people that Bill Cosby put more people in college than the what is it then there was that what was that
Affirmative action.
organization,
The
affirmative
national.
action, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and
Oh, the National Negro College
that,
Fund.
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Right,
The United Negro College Fund.
right, right. Thank you. And it wouldn't come to me, because well, and it's very important, right? It's very important that those depictions continue
Hmm.
to be promoted throughout our community. Because the truth be told, whatever you think about Bill Cosby, what he did do, didn't do, whatever, he changed the way black people were portrayed on television. You had a
Right.
black doctor married to a black lawyer. They lived together. They all had, they raised children together. There were lessons that they taught. A
Dr.
different
Green,
work.
he was the reason why I went to an HBCU.
And I was about to say that. And he made us ghetto kids in Brooklyn, New York,
Yeah.
that didn't know it,
See,
that knew very little about college, about HBCUs. Like,
Use.
wait
Yeah.
a minute. And how much fun that could be, and the kinds of friends and education you can get going. So I think that's really, really important. And so the ways in which people try to discredit, oh, since he has these allegations against him, we're going to destroy all of the work that he's ever done,
Mm.
which
despite the
is
fact
dumb.
that it literally change the life course trajectory of hundreds of thousands of black and brown kids,
Yep.
I
Yep.
think it's preposterous. And I think that one of the things, and also in that show, they showed how he was a father to other, you know,
Yes. Yep.
people that came into the
Yep.
home.
Yep.
Was it
Yep.
cockroach or was that the wrong?
Cockroach. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Right, right. So there were other people that came in that he fathered too.
Hmm.
So I think that's really really important, and just to kind of push that envelope a little bit further, just in my own personal life, one of the things, a tragedy, I had to look it up, January 16th, 1997, Enos Cosby, Bill Cosby's son
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
murdered,
Yes. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So
Tragic.
he
Yeah.
lost his son. His son is 28 years old. I
Yeah.
think his son was going to Columbia University,
Yeah.
maybe studying social work, if my memory
Yeah.
serves me.
He worked with children. Yeah.
He
Absolutely.
worked
Yeah.
with young children, and so this person took the life of Bill
Hmm.
Cosby's son. And so the way that changed my life specifically, right, is what hit me was Bill Cosby, in terms of fathering, you would think because of the results, he did what he was supposed to do, right? So he won the parenting game. His
Hmm.
son is, intelligent, going to school, working with children, and somebody else took his son away, and there was nothing that he could do about it. And why that changed, at least the way I kind of saw life, parenting and fathering, because we as even though it may not be fair, we as a people, black men specifically, have a responsibility to father those that are not necessarily ours, because
That's right.
you can do everything right for yours, and it's what the lost boys, it's the one that no
Yeah.
one
Yep.
paid attention to, that
Right.
can derail that whole story. And when we're living
Yeah.
in a time like in Philadelphia, New York, where we got drive-by shootings, like,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can't
I'm
even.
in Brooklyn, New York right now, so I'm worrying about that right now for my
Listen,
youngest.
I'm in
listen.
Miami, Florida. Yeah. It's crazy.
Right, so I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm between I'm in Brooklyn also, and I'm in Philly sometimes, and to see the carnage, right, the
yeah. It's crazy.
disregard for human life, somebody's got to
Unnecessary. Yeah.
reach out. Somebody's got to reach out to these young men and these young boys, and say, hey, we need to we need to father them. We need to instruct. We need to provide guidance, because this is the kind of result that you get when there is no leadership, there is no
Hmm.
fathering, right? There's not a hierarchy of direction and love and correction, right? So when you have in Harlem, New York, a 16-year-old, 13-year-old, one shot in broad daylight, the other one shot in the car. You got people doing drive-by shooting children at cookouts. Like, if there was ever a time where we needed black men to father and to step up, it's now, right? Not just for the ones that you have in your household, or the ones, but those young men that are basically crying out for some kind of help and support and direction, because where they're getting their help and their direction from is an assault on us making it as a people.
Hmm.
I agree. I think that's why we have to get better at identifying the forces that are working against us, because there are a lot of brothers out there that are taking on that role. I live in the hood. I live in East New York, Brooklyn, like pretty much like you already know, East New York, Brooklyn. So we're out here, but there are so many forces out here that fight against us. And these are forces that you will see in our elected officials,
Yeah.
in 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 even non-for-profits that are out here pretending to
Hmm.
do work. So it's like we got so many forces against us. And this is not an excuse, but I think if we enable our brothers to better identify the put them up on game, it'll be easier for them to put that first foot
Hmm.
forward, because I'm seeing a lot of people that are just kind of falling back. I'm seeing a lot of OGs, like old dudes, like dudes my age, the OGs. They just like, man, these kids out here, man, I ain't even messing with them. They
And,
they
and
they
Tony,
crazy.
Tony, that's what really scares me as well, because I'm hearing that our elders aren't scared of these children. They're terrified of these children.
Right.
But again, I go back to the mask of masculinity. You guys grow up in an urban area. they're just basically reflecting what they see in their area they grew up in. But if you approach them in a respectful and mannerable way,
with
they
love
all
and
with
respect.
love, and say, listen, I'm
Facts.
coming to you as your uncle,
Come
as
on.
your grandfather, as someone in your family, brother. I am not trying to attack you, but can you please pull your
It
pants up just a
works.
little bit? It works every time. It's
It
never failed for me.
works.
I've never been disrespected. I worked in a juvenile justice facility before. When I came with those young men, listen, I don't care what
Yeah.
you did, but I care that you get your GED, your high school diploma, or you get caught up into your right grade. I
And
respect you.
and let me tell you, a lot of these young dudes out here, they want that.
They're
They
crying
want
for it.
better.
They're
But
crying
they
for it.
don't, but they just don't see better. They don't
Yep.
see the value in themselves. So
Right.
it's our job to show them that they are valuable, that they matter. And
Yes.
that's why I always talk to my brothers. I'm 48 years old. I'm not shy about saying my age. You know what I'm saying? I'm,
I
I'm
am.
48 years. I'm, I'm 48 years old, and I came up, around a lot of, OG gangsters in the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Street
a lot
guys.
of them, they kind of washing their hands like, you know what, man, these young dudes, they crazy. I'm not even getting involved.
Mhm.
But I think it's that abandonment that just allows things to get
Yeah.
worse. Like we're looking at our own youth through the same eyes that are being propagandized to see us, how they saw us when we were coming up, when we were the super predators and all of
Yeah.
that. You understand?
Don't
So we're
start.
allowing the media, we're allowing them to do the exact same thing all over again, and this is a cycle that is just never going to end. So we got to man up, because for me, I feel like we're being bred into a bunch of cowards. I come from a different era.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like black men, our masculinity is under attack, and we
Yeah.
are being somehow reared into being a
Hmm.
bunch of ultra soft Charmin tissue paper, peanut butter and jelly, soft type dudes. You know what I'm saying?
I like peanut
So I
butter and
think,
jelly, son. What you talking about? What you trying to say, son?
yeah, you
What you trying to
know what I'm
say?
saying? I'm just saying there is nothing toxic about black male
No. No.
masculinity, and we need to be proud of it
Mhm.
and not allow anyone to attack it.
So I
Because
just want to put
everyone.
this out. All right, we
Okay.
just want to put this out real quick.
Go
Let's
for it,
you
Dr.
hear that.
Green.
You'll hear toxic masculinity synonymous with black masculinity, synonymous with
Facts.
masculinity. This is the question that you always pose when you hear that. When they say toxic masculinity, got it. You ask them, so what's
What's good?
masculinity that's not toxic?
Hmm.
Describe
Right.
it to me. What does it look like? Right? That's question number one. Question number two. So what does toxic femininity look like? Right?
Oh, brother, I
Right.
tried that before. I got
I
attacked.
understand. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. They say it's like reverse racism. I've heard that too. It doesn't
yeah,
exist. It's like,
yeah.
well, so then this toxicness is only applied when we're talking about masculinity, which
Hmm.
just doesn't stand on the
Specifically
face
men,
of
though. Black
it.
men,
Doesn't
I
stand on the
feel.
face of it.
Hmm.
I, I feel like all the scapegoating of toxic masculinity, it always ends up on us anyway.
Yeah.
Meaning black men. I feel like we become, the face of everything wrong with masculinity. I mean, otherwise people wouldn't be. Why is everybody saying to pull Bill Cosby shows off the air and all of that? But no one. But there's Harvey Weinstein movies playing everywhere. You got Charlie Sheen movies playing everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
But that's the
So
question that never gets asked. Why are we specifically talking? What is it about us? Because we're the Lord tier everything. Why is it so important to keep black men in a subservient, subjugated position? No one
because we
ever
are
really.
powerful.
There you go. It's sort of an open-ended question, but we know the answer, of course. But
That's right.
we have to begin to teach that. Why don't they want you to succeed? Because when we're given a chance, when you leave us alone, especially black people, but more specifically black men,
Come
we
on.
do great at everything. We outperform everyone
Always.
in the less amount
Always.
of time. We've only been in school together for 60 years, 60, 70 years.
Wow.
That's
But when
right.
you give us the opportunity to do something without interference from the dominant society,
Right. When you leave us alone.
when you leave us alone, we do well.
Well,
We
and
do
also
well.
I think connection is really important, and I'm just going
Mm.
to put this out there. There are a few people that, I mean, we really need to start connecting in
Right.
ways again, so we can start forming these coalitions that we were talking about. There are very influential people, whether we're talking about social media, we're talking about in the hood. I could put some names out there, but I won't right now. That
Right.
that need to step up and connect in ways that you're not just making money on the internet, right? Okay,
But yeah,
you
but
got a
that's the
million
thing,
subscribers, right
Doc.
now.
That's the thing. We just gotta do our own thing, man. Stop just
Facts.
thinking
I agree.
we all gotta be together. No, we don't. We just have to have a
Yes.
code of conduct. We have to be able to have one specific goal, and then it will work. Stop saying we all gotta be the same way. We can get to the same place by doing different
No,
things
no,
different
Right.
ways.
right.
I
Right. So I'm
agree.
not
I
saying
agree
you,
with both.
right,
I agree with what both of you are saying. I
Yeah,
just think that if we spend too much time trying to pull other people to come on, you
yep,
got to do this, you have this platform, you
yep.
got this responsibility, and if they're not doing it, I don't want to waste too much time on
Mm,
them. I would rather put my first foot forward. Let's just do what we got to do,
hmm.
and then the rest. It's like if you build it, they will come. That's how I look at it. You know what
right.
I'm
So
saying?
yeah, we can walk in, we can, like I say, walk and chew gum at the
Walk
same
and
time.
chew
And
gum at the same time.
I think that while we have a responsibility to keep moving and keep trucking along and making things happen, I
Still
also
hold
think
them accountable.
well, yeah, we still need to bring them along,
Yes,
because
yes, sir.
just
Yep.
because they have a million followers doesn't mean they're not lost boys also, or lost
Right,
girls.
right, right,
So
right.
it's not just
Agreed.
it's just not the kid on the
Facts,
corner
man.
that's
Facts.
moving that weight, but it's
Yep.
some of these
You're right.
platform holders that say, hey, I got a 500,000 followers, and it's like, for what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What are they
Like, what,
doing? Yeah.
what,
Those
what
same platforms and those same platforms can either help a lot or they can hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
it is
absolutely.
our responsibility to kind of still stay on top of that
Hmm.
anyway. So yeah, I do agree. I definitely
Yes,
agree with
yes,
that
man. You're right
100%.
on point, brother. Right on point.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Once
sir.
again, we're talking to our all black fatherhood panel. We, like I said, we started on about fatherhood, but we're going to cover all bases about the black experience coming from black men.
Did it again.
I mean, I love it that you guys are getting to these conversations and getting to topics of conversations that aren't had every day, right? Like that aren't had every day, at least on the internet. You all might have them in your individual families, within your individual circles, but ones that are talked about in a broad perspective with black men from different backgrounds, right? But all have a common goal to push the culture forward.
Right.
And I've held you guys for a long time, and I do want to get to the last piece of conversation. I'll start with you,
Okay.
Dr. Caldwell. Just about you spoke about like helping the youth, right? It starts with the way you approach someone and the way you talk to someone. So
Mm.
how is it that we push our youth in the younger generation further, push them forward as far as just becoming better men, becoming better fathers, and becoming
Mm.
better people in their community?
It starts early. We have to get proper representations of black male masculinity in our children's lives early, meaning elementary school, pre-K. What I see at the school that I'm working at for summer camp is that they don't get it. You have a lot of mothers who are dropping kids off, a lot of mothers who are picking kids up, a lot of mothers who are coming to pick kids up during the day. Rarely do you see black males picking their children up or actually coming to meetings. I was on a meeting the other day.
Really?
Trust me, brother. I'm batting about 750 when I say this. That
Uh,
you don't see it in large numbers. You see it in pieces, but you don't see it in large numbers like you do in other communities, because we have to work one or two jobs because we don't have
mm.
the economic resources to be able to take off of work and go to school and be a part of PTA meetings. Uh, we don't have the time to be able to um, get involved with after school activities or to pay for after school activities, or we don't have a relationship. Most importantly, we don't have a relationship with that mother in order to make time out to say, I'm going to pick up little Jamal or Shaniqua tomorrow. Is it okay? Because there's such conflict that goes on in those relationships. What we have to begin to do is ask our young people, or no, I'm not going to say ask our young people. We have to be as elders and go to our young people and say, how can I help you make this right? You know, you and Jamal's daddy don't get along. You and Shanika's daddy don't get along. How can we make this right? You have to have girlfriends of them, your homeboys, of those fathers to say, hey man, we got to get this right because this ain't how it's supposed to be. Because at the end of the day, the system will jump in and then it's all going left, meaning that child support, she can, everything is in her favor where she can put you in some type of situation that's going to be detrimental to you. So how can we make this work as a family, getting back to the family unit, getting back to the village of taking care of our own priorities and not allowing other outside forces to come in and direct us and tell us how we need to be as a family when it comes to raising a child who's in elementary school. And we can correct that issue very quickly if we can just say, it ain't about me, it ain't about you, you moved on, I've moved on. It's about our child. And it's really, it sounds simple, but Cornell West says never confuse the simple with the complex, because it sounds very simple, but there's so many complex issues that are going on behind it that most of the time, not all the time, that it really happens in that manner.
Tony, do you have something?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to answer the same question.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that was a very, very good answer, but I also look at it from another perspective as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do I think that we can really affect that sort of change? I think it comes by listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of the problem that we see right now, right, in the let's say with the crime, the violence,
Mm-hmm.
with these young men, a lot of that comes based upon this 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 feeling that they have no value,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of things that this stems from. So I think one of the most important things you can do for any person is to listen to them, to truly make them feel like they're part of the conversation, that they have value, and then you'd be really surprised at what you can learn. There's
Mm-hmm.
an old saying, you got to meet people where they are.
Yep.
I think that we spend so much time talking about, like even here in New York, right? We're talking about all the crime and the shootings and the this, that, and the other. Everybody's talking to everybody else, but guess who they're not talking to? They're not talking to them dudes in the streets. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? We're talking about trying to find these solutions, but you're not looking for those solutions with those same people. What do they need? What is missing? What's going on? So I think when we look at it from that perspective, and we listen to them and to truly diagnose the problem, and I think we'd be in a much better position. And
Mm-hmm.
brother, what you were talking about with, as far as, seeing, you don't see too many fathers picking up the kids and things like that. I think that's kind of, I guess that matters. That's more so like where you are, because I think I've been seeing a lot more involvement of fathers, especially with particularly when you're talking about like picking up kids from school and going to PTA meetings and stuff like that. Over the years, I mean, I was born in 1972, and I'm seeing, and I think it's particularly with the younger generation. So I think maybe that's what I'm talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of confidence in this younger generation because I think they have a great capacity for critical thinking. And so I'm actually encouraged because I feel like black men are showing up. They're more present, but they're just not getting that acknowledgement. We know we still have problems with the absenteeism and the systems that are against us, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to overlook, all of the positive that
Right.
is there, because sometimes we get so inundated with, oh, you black men, you brothers ain't doing enough, you're not there, you're out, you're not in the home, this, that, and the other. Sometimes you get a little fatigued from that, you know what I'm saying? And you
Mm-hmm.
feel underappreciated, or you feel like with everything that you're doing, it doesn't matter anymore.
But
Here
Tony,
comes the
you know what
child
that's called?
support.
That's called
Go ahead.
adulthood. It's called adulthood. And that's what I'm saying is that we have to have the elders to step in and say that's what you call maturation. Being a
That's right.
father is not a job that you get a chance to take a rest. It's a restless job. So that's
I
called
agree.
maturity. So that's what I'm saying. We need to reconnect our elders ourselves with this younger generation to say, yeah, I know you're
In order to,
tired.
we got to teach them.
Yeah,
We have to teach them
we
that.
gotta reconnect and have dialogue, and
Right.
just be able
So
to
if you
say,
have
hey
a whole
man,
generation
yeah,
of kids that don't even know what masculinity is,
this
they all
disconnect.
over
Yeah,
hypersensitive.
yeah, yes.
What's the result gonna be? You know what I'm saying? So
Another
that's why I say we
generation
got,
of hypersensitive young males
right.
coming out there. Yep, absolutely.
That's
You're
right.
right.
That's
Totally
right.
right. Yep, get it.
Dr. Green.
I think it's about, and you'll hear me reiterate this point until I'm blue in the face. It's about connectivity. It's about, I think one of the people in the chat said making our own systems. We have to take a systems approach. Not I'm gonna do my thing, you're gonna do your thing. We all gonna
Right.
hope it works out in the middle.
Mhm.
We
Right.
need to connect. We need to connect and create systems of opportunity for our young men, for our family, and we need to
That's right.
father outside of the four walls of our homes or that 4 block radius that we
Mhm.
live in. We have to start looking at the opportunity for mentoring, even if it's mentoring. These young men have got to be able to get on the
Yeah.
phone and call you and say,
Yes.
hey, you know, yeah, I'm thinking this or I'm doing that. And just as another footnote, and this maybe just comes as a criminologist, all the people talking about we need to help men, and obviously we do need to start young. But I got news for you. We need to start writing to and communicating with our brothers that are incarcerated,
Yes.
right? That have been
True.
thrown away into a system as if they no longer
It
exist.
exists. And,
Where
and
we,
Dr. Green, those men when they come out, they want to be so involved in their children's lives, man.
right,
It's incredible. But I go back to what I was saying earlier that they have these draconian laws that won't even allow them onto the campuses. A lot of these public schools, man.
right. So that's why it matters if
Hmm.
the ways in which we connect,
Yeah.
because maybe he can't go on the school grounds, but we can find ways for him to still be able to spend time with his child. And maybe we need to organize to really resist these policies that disenfranchise black men from their children for felony convictions or the like. But
Hmm.
again, I'm just saying that we really need to push the envelope in terms of connectivity, like beyond conversations, and get to creating systems,
Hmm.
processes, and
Yeah.
opportunities
Yeah.
for our children, for our young men and women for that matter, because fathering extends outside of your
Yeah.
house.
It sure
It
does.
it extends into
Hmm.
the community. It extends into the hospitals. It extends into the jails and the prisons. And if we're really serious about that, we'll set up systems that will be able
Hmm.
to work with, help, mentor, develop, and care for men that are less fortunate than we are.
Absolutely,
Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely.
man.
Once again, we're talking to our all black men panel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, guys. I've kept you for a long time. I just want to get your final words before we get out of here. Dr. Caldwell, just any lasting thoughts? We'll go with you first, and then we'll come to you, Tony, and Dr. Green. You'll be save the best for last. But
Don't
Dr.
believe that.
Caldwell.
So, uh, say that question one more time, if you don't
No, I
mind.
would just say your final thoughts. We're wrapping up here. I just
Well,
want to
this
hear
this
your
is what
final
we
thoughts.
this is what we really need. We need to begin to create our own places and spaces where we could connect and really just chop it up about what's going on in our community and find out. Well, I didn't know who Dr. Green was until tonight. I didn't know who Tony Lindsay was until tonight. That's a problem because we have so much, as Dr. Green was saying, email, text messaging, social media. We have to begin to understand we got to find these people and stop being so hyper masculine where I know more than what you know. Nobody disagreed with each other tonight. We all said, hey, let's table it. However, we can come back to it at a later time. But for this conversation, we're going to talk about this. I would love to be back on a panel with Dr. Green talking about what he's talking about. I would love to be back on a panel with Dr. Lindsay or Mr. Lindsay, I'm sorry, Tony, talking about what he's talking about in entertainment. That's where we have to, get rid of our pride and our hyper masculinity is to say, hey, man, we can disagree, but you know what? The bigger outcome of it is that we're going to be able to present something that benefits not just us, but the people after us, the young people. Put all of that aside, and I think that's what the movies and entertainment, music especially, is always showing black men always at each other's throat. They never show us intertwining and having conversations with each other that don't involve the N word and you pee this and come on, man. We got to get away from that because time is ticking, man. The time is ticking. Yeah, we got to get away from that.
Tony Lindsay.
Yes, sir.
So I don't really have much to say. I would like to, I guess, basically close out with just saying a little bit about fatherhood
Mm-hmm.
and why I love it. I think fatherhood is probably one of the most stressful, uh, unrewarded, uh, tedious, and beautiful things on this earth. I think it's an amazing thing to play such a huge role in a child's life in protecting them, in
Mm-hmm.
nurturing them, in teaching them, and just watching things connect with them, being able to mold them into this beautiful person. And I think it gives you a special sense of accomplishment and purpose. So me, I thank God every day for the children that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And being I've been present in the lives of my children. So I see the advantages that they have when they have their father there, from the beginning, consistently, straight through. And it's not like bragging on myself, but every once in a while you just want to sit back and be like, man,
What's wrong with that? What's
I
wrong with
did a
that, Tony?
good job. You know what I'm saying?
What's wrong with that, man? Brad, we have to do that. We got to get
Right.
back to congratulating each other, man. That's
Yeah,
what that's what it's because we all we had. We're all we had.
right, right. So I just get a special sense of
Mm-hmm.
pride and accomplishment in knowing that I raised these beautiful people who I know are going to contribute so much to the world. And if I can do that with those uh, four people,
Mm-hmm.
just imagine what the rest of us can do with
Mm-hmm.
all the rest of these young people coming behind us as black
Right, right.
men.
Absolutely.
So I'm
Absolutely.
honored and happy to be here. I'm happy to be a father. And let me tell you something, brothers, it's the best experience you will ever experience in your
Love
life.
it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
That's right.
Mhm.
And Dr. Green.
So you've already heard the great men speak. I'm just going to just go completely off course, just for the heck of it, right? So obviously, I want to thank you, Jeff, for this opportunity to sit with these great black men, and just say that we as black men really need to work and continue to find ways to support one another. I want to shout you out, Jeff. I want to shout out what you're doing, the opportunities that you're providing to put a new face on the black experience.
Mhm.
I appreciate you. I support the work you do. I'm going to do everything I can to promote you.
Mhm.
I love the work that you do, and just to put it in context, right? If you don't hear anybody say thank you, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for the work that you do, and just look at this for a minute, and then I'm gonna shut my mouth. Jeff, media, right? Right? Tony, entertainment, right? Doc, education. Doc, criminal justice. You've put together a cadre of disciplines, areas of expertise that if we really start to coalesce, this is the kind of thing that people just won't understand. When you
That
get media,
speak on it, brother.
entertainment,
Speak on
criminal
it.
justice, and education,
Speak on it,
all
brother.
on one panel. That's what you accomplished, Jeff. And I just want to shout you out and tell you how much I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Shout out to
Same,
all the black
absolutely.
men and black
Absolutely.
fathers out there. Because while y'all think that we just talking, before y'all know it, we're gonna do some stuff. You're gonna be
Absolutely.
amazed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, once again, I appreciate you guys for
Thank you,
joining me.
Jeff.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day. And thank you all for tuning in. Once again, this is the Black Boss Channel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe on your way out.